Can you walk me through your journey towards entrepreneurship and how you arrived at your current position as it stands today?
Yes. So my journey wasn't really thought through. I wasn't even sure where it was going, to be honest. I think that the main thing that pushed me to keep following my interests is the fear of, I was very insecure about just like what I'm doing with my life. I felt a little lost. So when I got pregnant with my first child, my modeling career, which is everything I kind of knew, and the way I was financially independent, that kind of got paused as I was pregnant. So I decided to just follow an interest of mine, which was nutrition. And that's where it all kind of started. I think that my career, if I look at one thing that I kept doing over and over again, is just following my interests and seeing what made me feel that like scared butterfly. And those are usually the action I would take just to kind of put myself on, out of my comfort zone. And I think that it naturally took me to explore just different places. And that's what brought me to social media.
You mentioned the word fear, like lost, insecure. So I was actually going to ask you if there was a significant moment which made you realize you wanted to become an entrepreneur, because usually those words that you mention are words where people wouldn't go forward and do things, and you did the opposite.
Yeah, I think that, something that if I need to kind of point one moment, it was when I was, I think, 24 or 25 years old. I already had two kids. And I finished my nutrition school, and I thought that I'm going to maybe start a clinic or something. And it wasn't at a time where entrepreneurship was as sexy as it is now. Like now everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but I lived with a serial entrepreneur. Like my husband is an entrepreneur, and I just saw the struggles and, how much it takes out of you. So it's not necessarily that I thought that here I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I think that it's just what happened was, again, I was 25 years old. I was at home with my two kids, and I was still doing modeling. I was still kind of making money here and there, but it wasn't a career, a full-time career anymore. And the nutrition thing just felt too small. And I think that at that point, I was just sitting there and I'm like, wow, I'm 25 years old and I feel very comfortable. And that comfortable feeling, that's what scared me the most, because I feel like in your 20s, or to be honest with you, even in your 30s, like you don't want to feel that comfort. That comfort is, I feel like a signal that you need to take action. So to me, that's what kind of drove me to start looking into, okay, what can I do? And again, I think that I wasn't necessarily focusing on, I'm an entrepreneur. It was more like, okay, what actions can I take to bring me to a place where I don't feel this comfortable and feel like I'm evolving and doing things for myself and for my future self. And I think that that's kind of through these steps that I took until now. I would say that I realized I was an entrepreneur probably like 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
Right? Like I wasn't focusing on that too much. I feel like people really focus on it now. Like it's a label everyone wants to carry because they think it's so cool.
Right.
But I feel like my journey was driven more by action, less by, trying to fit a certain label.
You mentioned again, seeing your husband and kind of almost like a need because of the comfort and having children. So was there something or maybe someone that motivated you to follow this path forward?
Definitely my husband. I feel like, I had a very strong support system at home, and I was very fortunate and lucky to have a partner that was putting the right amount of pressure on me and, giving me that encouragement. I know a lot of people don't have that and they have to be their own cheerleaders, right? So that's definitely something that I had that I don't take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just, him guiding me through it. Whenever I had a question, I would come to him. He would kind of help me see the big picture, which is something that I struggled with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That was obviously very helpful for me and my kind of evolution into becoming an entrepreneur.
Were there any significant relationships along the way which influenced your journey towards entrepreneurship beyond just your husband?
I grew up in a household with, a single mother, and she had me very young, and we kind of went through life together, growing up together. And she's an entrepreneur, and but that was a lot of that entrepreneurship came from the need to survive. So I kind of had a whole life of watching her do that, which obviously impacted me a lot. She showed me what a strong woman is and what sacrifice is and what work ethic is. Obviously, that is the building blocks of what brought me to here. So I definitely had that base
Mm-hmm.
in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that my husband was just more of a, how can I explain? I didn't have the confidence in myself, and that's where he came into the picture and kind of helped me to build that.
Could you walk me through like one of the key experiences which you think helped in your journey towards entrepreneurship? Like something you went through or something you recognized or something even that you look back on and you're like, wow, in the time that was not something that was so great, but I look back on it now and look how it's kind of helped you?
Every day I have an experience like that. I think that that's part of entrepreneurship. You never crack the code. It never just works. It's not a skill that, you kind of born with or just get it and that's it. There's no bumps in the road. But that's part of what attracts me to, be an entrepreneur. It's just a constant journey of learning about yourself, about your environment, about how to build the business, how to operate, when to step away, when to, step forward. There's so many small little nuances every single day that I learn. So I truly can't point on one experience because I feel like I have so many, as I mentioned, on a daily basis.
So thinking back on all those experiences and how you started, how did you know that you could do this?
I didn't. That's the thing. It's like nothing is guaranteed. And I feel like that's part of an entrepreneur DNA, if that makes sense. It's like taking that leap of faith and just, knowing that even if it works or fails, it's a journey that will teach you a lot of lessons, that will bring you somewhere. Maybe it's not going to be the place where you envisioned, but it's going to be somewhere else. So I feel like it's less focusing on the end result and more focusing on kind of the process and the journey and the systems that, you implement.
Could you maybe elaborate and share something you've learned along the way on your journey that has stood out to you and made you realize you were capable of doing this?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned probably in the past year was that there's no novelty in doing everything yourself. I think that especially now we're in a culture, like I mentioned, obviously everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and everyone wants to be a girl boss and everyone wants to do all these things. But, I feel like as women, we take so much on ourselves and trying to make everything work by ourselves. And it just doesn't work. So I feel like for me, something that I've learned is that to really recognize my strengths and invest in, in people for my weaknesses. This is obviously at a point where, my business started making money and I had the opportunity to reinvest. And that's when I started really identifying the areas that, it doesn't serve me or my business if I sit and edit a video for 8 hours when I can create more content, let's say. And then that's what kind of prompted me to hire an editor. So it's those kind of small check-ins with yourself, just truly being aware of your capabilities and what you can do that can bring the most amount of value to your business. And really focus on that, and just not taking this like I can do it myself to like, I feel like sometimes we're in a way sabotaging our own growth, by trying to be stubborn and doing everything ourselves, where I do believe that you should know how to do all these things at first. And I was doing everything at first. I was doing the accounting, I was doing the invoicing, I was doing the editing, I was doing the shooting. So I was doing everything myself. But I think that's the point where I reached where I was like, okay, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, but I'm very good at this. And this is what moves my business. So let me invest more time into that. And then that will bring me more, opportunities to make money, which that money I can reinvest and hire people that can do all these other things that I'm not great at.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like a lot of people get caught up with that because they don't want to let go in a way, almost like losing control.
Exactly. And that's obviously another part of it, right? So not only that awareness that you develop, that is important to develop as an entrepreneur, to recognize your strengths and weaknesses, but it's also that letting go. And for me, it was very, very difficult. I was doing kind of baby steps with that. And also as a Virgo, I'm such a perfectionist and I want things done a certain way. And it was a very much of kind of a journey into myself to fix that little like annoying, disabling kind of attitude.
I'm a Virgo, so I do know what you mean.
Exactly. So that's definitely something that is also a big lesson for me in the past year and a half.
Thank you for sharing that. That actually made a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people can't let go and it almost sabotages them in the end. But you mentioned like you almost didn't set out to do this. You kind of just set out to go and follow your own path. So with that being said, what were your goals when you started? You mentioned, you had the idea initially to open a clinic. So I don't know if that ever happened, but just broad speaking, when you think about it, like, did you have goals when you set out to do this, or was it just like, I'm going to follow what feels good?
I think I was really honest with myself. I think that my ego thought it would be really cool to own a clinic. So I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. But then I was, when I started seeing clients, I just realized that it just wasn't big enough. It didn't feel substantial. It didn't feel like I am truly helping, and just again, making the impact that I wanted to make. So I pretty quickly dropped that idea. And that's when I kind of started researching and seeing, okay, how can I put that information that I've just learned from myself and my family to a bigger audience and for free, because you know what, I'm fine with not necessarily like charging money at this point. And that's kind of what made me dive into the social media world. And again, it wasn't necessarily a very thought through kind of process. It was more like exploring what's out there, trying it out. It was more even a challenge for myself to keep pushing myself to do things that just made me very nervous and insecure. I just thought that at the age of 25, 26, I just really wanted to break those like limiting beliefs that I've had about myself. So yeah, and that's what kind of got me onto YouTube. Again, I wasn't aware that the influencers world is so big. I was in my own little bubble of like a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids. So I didn't necessarily like go there to make a huge business out of it. What did kind of shifted it from being a hobby to actually seeing it becoming a career path is I saw an influencer in the field. That's when I was already kind of, playing around with YouTube and Instagram. And I saw this influencer, Lim, who's a friend now. And I saw that, she had a production company. She had this, she had that. It was a business. And I feel like for me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is possible. So that's what I wanted to do. When I reached that point, I knew that as a hobby, I won't be able to take it seriously enough to keep it up while raising 2 other kids. But if I see a prospect of a business
Mm-hmm.
If I see something that can go bigger, then that's something I'm willing to invest in with time and, just really being focused on that. So I think that was a shift for me, looking at this as more than a hobby. Once I made that switch in my head, I just went full force. And it was very weird for a lot of people around me. Everyone is like, what are you doing? This is so awkward. You're making recipes online.
Well,
So,
I was
yeah.
gonna say, and that's one of the things that I like to try to understand or hear from, of course, like the interviewer's perspective, because there's so much negativity out there, and there's so many people who ask you what you're doing, and there's people who just don't understand.
But you know what? That's fine. I feel like that's even a strength in a way, because I feel like I'm a little more advanced than some people. And listen, I couldn't say that it would be successful or not. I was just like, I'm onto something. Like the fact that people don't really get it, it means that I'm ahead of my journey. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like I saw people who built careers out of it. So it's not like I invented something that doesn't exist. It's just the people around me, friends and family. Like my mom still has no idea what the hell I'm doing. She's like, you're just putting videos online. I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. But the people around us, like my friends and stuff, they were like, this is why? But for me, I already had, I've seen proven cases of great businesses that were built. So I'm just like, I already, I know that it's possible. So the fact that these people, have their own kind of worlds, and this is their capacity of what they can understand. So to me, why will their capacity of understanding needs to affect mine? Does it make sense?
No, it does make sense, and I'm glad you shared it like that. I myself, I can admit that I think sometimes I don't do things because I worry about what other people think, which makes no sense at all, because at the end of the day, I don't even know them and I really don't care, but I think it's just like our mindset just stops us. Yeah.
I think that's a human thing. I think we all go through it. But you know what's funny? The thing I was watching this, I was listening to this interview with Jay-Z. I think it was from like 97 or 98. And it's amazing how it affected me. So it was an interview where, the interviewer were asking, he was asking Jay-Z, it was like, you mentioned how your uncle, he just kept kind of telling you while you were trying to become a rapper, it's like, you're never going to make it. Like, there's no chance you're going to make it, Are you angry that he didn't believe in you? And Jay-Z said, no, I'm not angry, because from his perspective and his world, with the life that he had, he couldn't even fathom that idea of like one of us, can make it. So how can I blame him? That was his world. I can't expect people to, to believe in something they have never witnessed, right? So I feel like that really changed my understanding of people. So it doesn't necessarily, I don't look at people that kind of don't believe in what I do as someone they're just like, oh, they're haters. I'm just looking at it like, yeah, they don't have that capacity.
Did you always look at it from such a positive perspective, or were there times where you felt it, were hurt by the negativity?
You know what? I feel like my whole life I was so affected by everyone and everything, and I was scared of my own shadow. And it was just, I'm not sure where it came from. And, as I got older and I've learned about just, learning more about myself and connecting more with myself, that's where all these lessons started coming. Of course, there were times, even when I knew this information, there were times that I still kind of went back to my old way of thinking and just really getting affected by comments and people, and it will happen from time to time. But now I feel like I have the tools to, constantly go back to help me kind of, just look at it differently. So it was never like very positive. I think naturally I'm a positive person, but it definitely takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of awareness and self-discipline to just, have those tools and use them for your own benefit.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't care to know. I mean, I just, as long as I'm with my family and my kids are healthy and everyone's healthy and good, I'm good. Professionally, I think that I stopped limiting myself with what I think I should be doing in 5 years. And again, I just take it kind of day by day. And I feel like maybe because I'm still working on that bigger picture vision, I don't want necessarily to put goals. I prefer to kind of take it day by day. And, I have like young women that are just, always ask me, how did you know that this is what you want to do? And this is what you're going to do? And my answer is always like, I'm doing this now, but I don't know this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like I still have so many years of, reinventing myself and exploring other interests. And that's the beauty of it. Like, I don't want to know what's going to happen. That's the whole point of living.
That's very true.
So, yeah. So I feel like, obviously there needs to be some kind of order and some kind of plan, but I'm very careful now with just being too hung up on these like goals for the next 5-10 years. And I prefer to really focus on just like bettering myself and bettering my business and the way I do things and the way I work every single day.
I like that. It's a completely different mindset. And I have to say, so far, and I've spoken to a few women at this point, no one has said that.
Because I think that that's what's going on in culture right now, right? It's like we're all programmed to be like, you have to set goals, you have to do this, you have to do that. And yes, but I feel like it's that day to day, it's that system, it's those habits that you do and build every single day. Like that is so much more important than these goals, because you can have the goals, but then if you don't have the proper systems, then those goals are just going to become this heavy burden on yourself that will, fuel negativity because you can reach there. Like it feels so far and so big to you, right? And that's where that like feelings of anxiety and I'm not good enough and I'm not moving fast enough. Like it's like a vicious cycle.
You're absolutely right. I was going to say you could probably be like a therapist or a psychologist for many people if you want to do that too.
I don't know. I'm really thinking about starting a podcast because I feel like it's going to be a great like therapy session for myself.
I could see that working well. You have a lot of wisdom and it's really appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I mean, you know what? This is all things and lessons that we all learn through life. I think that I just got to learn them a little bit maybe quicker because I feel like I fast forwarded a lot of things in my life. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's why for me, social media is such a beautiful place because I have that opportunity to share these lessons and to share kind of that aspect of me, beyond just like pretty images and style videos. So,
I'm wrapping up, but I want to know if you could share 3 pieces of advice with me that you would give your younger self or maybe even to others about how you would navigate your career. Like what would they be? Maybe why?
3 pieces of advice. I think that the first thing that I just brought me a lot of comfort is the fact that truly no one knows what the hell they're doing. Like literally no one. Doesn't matter what big executives and, people that have achieved so much, people have no idea. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to remember every time you are in a position where you have to, make decisions or take action. You kind of learn by taking those actions. You'll never be ready to do something. It will never be the perfect temperature, the perfect amount of knowledge, the perfect like staff, like nothing. it's just never a scenario like that. So that's definitely one. The second one would probably be that, like, shifting that mindset of not focusing on the haters, but more looking at them as people that, they just don't know and can't see the opportunities out there. So really kind of patting yourself on the back for being able to see that type of opportunity. I think that's very special. And I think that's what's unique to not entrepreneurs. And number 3 would probably be self-awareness. Probably just constantly going back and just really learning to connect those deep, levels that you have in you, because that's what's going to really be the best guide and the best teacher to teach you when to step back, when to step forward, when to act and when to not. And saying yes and saying no, like, that's really where it all starts. And those are the decisions that really make, our journeys interesting or not interesting. And I think that's really is kind of the base of it all.
Thank you. Those are all pieces of advice I think we should all try and take. So
it's gonna take a while to implement them, but trust me, it's worth it.
So is there anything we maybe didn't discuss that you think would be important to share? Maybe beyond some of the questions, or anything maybe we didn't speak about?
No, I think you did a great job with kind of talking about everything. I feel like we touched on all the points that I would like to, so yeah, no, it's been perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you again for spending this time with me and participating. It really means a lot to me, especially like I have an understanding of how busy you must be. But again, I wanted to thank you. I do really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. And it was a really nice discussion. I enjoyed it.